Welcome to the Insight Thru Experience Podcast. Podcast created to provide information about what life is like inside the most specialized special tactics organization in the U.S. Air Force. In these episodes, we'll be bringing you the experiences from many of our experts, ranging from our human performance optimization staff, our combat mission supporters, as well as our special warfare operators. Our main objective with these podcasts are to provide the listener with a unique look inside our culture of excellence in hopes that you will make the 724 a future career goal. Now, sit back, relax, take some notes, prepare to hear from some of the Air Force's finest. Thank you for joining us on the Insight Thru Experience Podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Insight Thru Experience Podcast. Today, we have a great episode with Nick. Nick's a PJ. Nick's been in the unit for just about a decade now, and he had 2 assignments before this one as a pararescueman as well. So tons of knowledge, tons of experience, and hopefully all of that will come through loud and clear in our conversation here. I really enjoyed this episode. I liked hearing about Nick's experiences. I was here when he got here. I watched Nick come through the selection process and then through OTC. What stood out to me about him is just his calm demeanor, his ability to absorb information and apply it very rapidly, and then stack on top of that knowledge over and over again. So again, I think that's what makes the operators up here pretty special, and Nick is absolutely an example of that. All right, let's not waste any more time, and let's let Nick drop some knowledge on us for the next 45 minutes or so. Appreciate all of you joining us again on the Insight Thru Experience Podcast. Love having y'all along. Let's get this episode started. All right, Nick, thanks for joining me today, buddy. I know you had a late flight last night, so I appreciate you tuning in and joining me on the podcast.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to our discussion.
Hey, so tell the audience, give us a brief background of your life growing up, all the way up to the point of the decision to join the Air Force, if you would.
Yeah, sure. So growing up, my father was in the Air Force, as an F-16 pilot, so I kind of grew up all over the place, and once he ended up retiring, we moved to Montana. Kind of did middle school and high school there, and a little bit of college. Had some fun in college there. And then 9/11 happened, and after that, I kind of decided that I needed to make some other decisions, and I wanted to get involved in this fight. So that was kind of the turning point for me when I decided that I wanted to come in.
What were some of the keys to success? So as you entered the pipeline and coming from Montana, I love that you were in Montana. Not many people that I've got to talk to in AFSPECWAR grew up in Montana. What a cool place to freaking cut your teeth. As you entered the pipeline and you started looking around and you started moving forward from school to school, what were some of the keys to success that you saw happening, maybe in your peers, maybe things that you were learning? What are some of those things that could benefit people that are going to join AFSPECWAR soon and are going to take that same experience underway?
I think one of the biggest things for me is mindset. Really, your motive for doing what you want to do. Your motives have to drive you. If you don't have the proper motives for what you want to do, then it's going to make life a lot more difficult for you. So if you're coming into the job and wanting to do the job for the right reasons, like the mission, the men, wanting to go out there and make a difference, then that's going to help you out. And having that be like the baseline and your driving force is probably one of the biggest things that helped me.
What were some of the things you saw that were tripping guys up, that maybe led to guys ringing the bell, if you will, and deselecting themselves for an AFSPECWAR lifestyle?
Yeah, I think one of the big things that I saw, is self-doubt. Once somebody starts getting self-doubt and they get that little thought in their head, it just spreads like wildfire. And that's one of the biggest things I noticed is as soon as the guy started having thoughts about quitting, or this may not be for me, like that was kind of like the little pinhole that turned into just like tearing it wide open for him.
I like that analogy. How did you fight not getting the pinhole inside your psyche, inside that mindset? How did you stave it off?
Yeah. So for me, my faith is a big part of who I am. And honestly, my faith is kind of what kept me going. along with the guys that I met along the way, and not wanting to let them down, and wanting to be there for them. But at the end of the day as well, like I came into this job with the thought in mind of, as a pararescueman, I want to go out there and I want to push and drive and be harder than everyone else, so that I can make sure that I go out there and make a difference. So, deep inside, when I would have those moments where I watch other people start to have self-doubt or move down that road, I almost felt like it would just kind of give me a boost, as like, hey, this is not happening to me. Like, I'm here to do this. So
let me ask you this though, Nick. How did, man, I'm trying to correlate things, and correlation doesn't equal causation a lot of times, but how did life in Montana help you going through the pipeline, if at all?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would spend my time, outside and, hiking, skiing, just being a normal kid in Montana. So yeah, I think, living life a different way, just being somebody that's active and enjoys getting out and doing things like that, that definitely helped me in what I decided to do. Leading up to it, I used to, we lived like right next to this, like, where the mountains start. So I would basically just throw a ruck on, and I didn't have anything other than like these bags of concrete. So I'd throw an 80-pound bag of concrete in a rucksack and just go for a hike up the mountains.
How do you, man, and I'm just pulling on this thread a long way, but this is interesting to me because there's the dichotomy when you get into the pipeline of, you got your Nicks who grew up in Montana and were carrying bags of concrete around the mountains, but you've got people growing up in cities and maybe in more rural or even urban environments and don't have some of those same availability of resources. So what are some things guys could do? We're spitballing here, but what are some things guys could do, do you think, to prep them and get that mindset ready for what they're about to go through?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of really good programs out there for prep. Obviously, I don't think I've even seen all of them, but I know there's a lot of good prep programs out there. And even if you don't do that, like I'll kind of go back to the mindset thing. I think no matter where you are and what you have available to you, if your mindset is there, that like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is my end goal, and I'm going to keep pushing and driving myself harder and faster than I want to go to achieve that goal.
One other thing I'm going to pull on here before we move on is your conversation around faith, and I love it. It seems like in our society, and I know this from a statistical standpoint, religion is, people who are religious and lean on that faith is growing smaller and smaller in the community, in the community as in the United States. Man, it seems hard. What's the rock guys can lean on when it isn't a religious rock? Like in your hard times, you had that faith bolstering you. Like it was like a wall that you can't go backwards because the faith is sitting there pushing you forward, right? I just wonder, what are some things guys can lean on these days, man, to freaking be that rock for them? And I think your mindset's part of it, but any other ideas?
Yeah, I mean, it's different for everybody. One of the greatest things about the military, I think, is being able to be around and get to know guys and gals from all walks of life. So I think one of those things, honestly, is, it could be a number of things. It could be family. It could be, the situation that you're leaving, not wanting to go back there, wanting to push forward and drive towards something completely different in your life. It could be, friends. And honestly, once you get to spend a little bit of time with the guys around you, that becomes a driving force as well.
Man, I love it. And I think the prep course, now called the candidate course, it's about 7 to 8 weeks long. I'm hoping that brotherhood's building there. But like you said, if it hasn't by the time A&S kicks off, if they just stay a couple of days, that brotherhood starts building really quickly. And suffering usually does that for us. I love all those answers. I hope any young people out there listening who are about to come in just heard what Nick said, because I think all those things that he said can be a rock for you. Just got to figure out what to stick your stake in the ground over and go forward with it. All right, Nick, let's pull back to you. So what were some of your previous assignments before you came up to the 724? And what were some of those positives and negatives that you experienced there?
Yeah, so right when I graduated the PJ Schoolhouse, I went to Hurlburt Field to the 23rd STS, and then following that, I went out to the 321st STS out in Mildenhall, England, and then came to the 724 after that assignment. It's hard to pull out negatives really. I've pretty much enjoyed every single assignment that I've had. Hurlburt had was kind of the nucleus there for AFSOC, and there was a ton going on, and the 23rd at the time was real busy. And that's actually where I first got my look at the 724 was back then we used to come up and augment. So at the time, my first deployment was doing that. So I kind of got to look around and see what was going on. A little bit different than the normal stuff that they do, but that was interesting for me. And then did the same out in England. I think one of the positives in England was the amount of interaction and travel that you get to do around Europe, and just get to meet, other special operations folks from different countries and work with them in exercises. Yeah, it was a great time.
What was being a PJ at the 2-3 like when you got there? So were y'all combined in the teams? Did you have your own team? How was that going at the 2-3 at the time?
Yeah, so when I got there, we were all on one team together, and I think there was probably like 12 of us or so. But yeah, it was a pretty tight knit group, and PJs were all on one team, and then there were two separate combat control teams. Yeah, so a lot of the training we would do then was pretty focused on just PJ stuff. So, we didn't integrate a whole lot with the combat controllers. And, I think that may have been something that I wish, if I could go back, is that we were integrated with them, knowing what I know now, and be able to spend some more time with them. And I would say the same about England, because when I got to England, the PJs were all on one team and the combat controllers were on another.
If there's one thing I could go back in our history, the 2-4 STS, now the 724, we're the ones that led that charge back in the day. We stood up blue team, all the PJs went to blue team, and then everybody out in the outside the fence line started following suit. And I think most of us controllers, we hated it. The PJs loved it because they got to do more PJ focused training. And I get it, man. When you're on a ST team combined, it's hard for PJs to get what they need just to even stay or get their upgrade training. Like if you get to the 2-3 STS and you're combined with other AFSCs, man, completing your 5 level is almost impossible in an ST unit. And that's the feeling.
Oh, yeah.
And so was that hard, or was it easier because y'all were on one team when you got there?
I think it made it a little bit easier being able to just like focus in on some of the 5 level stuff. But, I went to, I think after being at the unit for maybe a couple months, we went over to AST, which I think is STTS now. And that helped get some of our 5 level stuff knocked out. Didn't get all of it at the time. But yeah, that was a constant drive, was trying to get that all the line items knocked off. Obviously with that being a priority, I think the shared experience from PJs working together, and I think a lot of the places now are integrated. I think it just makes guys, better, well-rounded operators.
I agree, man. A couple of thoughts on that. One, I'm glad that the FTU has now stood up basically like an STTS out there. So hopefully the 2-3 and all these other organizations can get handed 5 levels instead of having to worry about coming up with some of those light items that you guys have, because some of your light items are freaking crazy on the PJ side of the house. So thank goodness for the FTU. Shout out to the 68th out there doing those jobs. And then I do think the integration is important, because when we're not living together day by day, me being able to back you up when maybe a mass cow happens, or you being able to maybe get on the laser when I'm, busy and I need some help doing some cast JTACRY stuff, man, you're just not good at it when you don't live together every day and you don't have the same conversations every day. So I was really happy to see when we started joining back up. And I know it was at the angst of a lot of PJs out there, but I really think it made us stronger as an ST organization when we did come back together. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I agree completely. When I got up here, you pretty much got, aligned with a combat controller that I spent the majority of my time with. And yeah, like that relationship was great for me. Like I trusted him, I knew him, he knew me and trusted me. We became great friends. I still talk to him today. And yeah, it was never really, in the back of my mind, if something were to happen, I knew that he had my back and I had his, and we were able to mutually support each other.
Yeah, outstanding. Let's go back real quick. You said at the 2-3 you came up and augmented, and I know what rotation you were on. Can you just describe that briefly to the audience? Because the reason why I'm asking, man, is there's still opportunities to come up and augment us, and I think it's a great way to come get inside the fence line and see if this is a good fit for you. So what was that like for you back at the 2-3?
Yeah, sure. So back then we were coming up and augmenting and doing CSAR rotations. So you'd come up and I think you do a week or 2-week train up, kind of get a little bit of the lay of the land, make sure that all your gear's good to go, and then get some great training, and just kind of a check on skills to make sure that you're ready to push forward and do what you're coming up there to do. And then during the rotation, it was a great time getting to basically be mentored and ask questions and just kind of get to know like the overall lay of the land at the 724. And it was great because I know for me personally, that daily interaction with the operators that were already up at the 724. Being able to pick their brains on, all kinds of stuff, to include just, what all they're up to up here.
Any highlights from those deployments that stand out?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, honestly, was getting to have my first kind of taste and look at some of the sister services. We started flying embedded towards the end of it, and I thought that was great to me. Getting to watch these young Rangers and these other Army guys go out and do their thing. Like, man, if anything, I think that kind of fueled my fire for pushing forward and wanting to find something else to do than my current situation.
Awesome. That's a great segue. So from the 2-3 to the 321st, what led you to finally saying, hey, it's probably time, I'm going to go ahead and put in my application and see if this is a good fit?
Yeah, so at the 321st, we were doing some, we would go do rotations down in Stuttgart with some Army guys down there and kind of running as an assault PJ. And then, post that other deployment where I came up and augmented the 724, I just decided, this seems like a lot of fun. I enjoy running with the guys and kind of getting in the mix. And, I'm definitely looking for, something to push me a little bit further. I think I'm the kind of person that, I don't like to just kind of stay in a spot where I'm completely comfortable. I like to push myself outside of my comfort zone. And so I was at a point where I really was kind of looking for something a little bit more. And having had the couple augmentations that I did, I knew the opportunities that were available to me, and I knew that I would definitely be able to drive myself forward and open up some new avenues that maybe I hadn't thought of before.
It's a weird question. I've never asked this before, Nick, but let's pretend like you'd never put in your application and you had to move on from the 321st. What do you think? Are you staying in for 20? Like, what do you think the life would have been like? And I think it would have been positive because I think you're a positive guy, but just knowing what you got to do up here and then knowing what life would have been like out there, make sense to me in Nick's mind. What do you think how it would have played out?
I think had I chose to do something else, I probably would have stayed in for 20. I really love where I'm at right now. Like I said, though, I really enjoyed my time at the other units. And I think, wherever you are, your situation is dictated by how you perceive it and how you decide to go ahead and attack it. So if you're in a spot where, initially you're not happy with, like maybe you just need to take a quick look and be like, hey, you know what am I really unhappy with? Look around and say, how can I make this situation better? I think for me, like that's where my mindset goes a lot of the times is like, I might have that moment or whatever where I'm like, man, this sucks. But, after that, I start trying to look at it and be like, hey, it may suck, but this is where I'm at right now. And, there's a lot of good things here, but how can I make this better for myself? But also, you know what, maybe I can make this better for everyone else in the same time.
So much wisdom in there, man. So much I want to pull out of that. I'm trying not to make this 3 hours long because we have a meeting after this, but I love it. So, and what just came to my mind when you were saying that, if you run one time, if you run from one of your problems the first time, you're probably just going to keep running because that becomes your solution every time. So it's figuring out how can I make the best of the situation that I'm in, and then keep looking for opportunities outside of that. But what I love the most about what you just said is also how can I make it better for the guys around me? Because if you can figure out how to do that, you win. Anywhere that you're at feels like heaven, if you will, just to use it. And I also wanted to get you to speak on that question because I think a lot of times people may feel like we're projecting ourselves as the only good option out there. And man, that is not true.
Yeah.
People have the most amazing careers that never step foot inside our fence line. And I just want people to realize that too, as they're making the decision process of, is that right for me? I think it is a great place to come up and learn new skill sets, new ways to do your trade a little bit in a joint environment, but it isn't a place for everybody. So I just want everybody to have guys like you who are smart relaying that to them on the net. So I appreciate that. Let's talk about my personal passion, as you know, ANS, the process for operators. So as you were coming through our selection model, what were some of the challenges you went through and how'd you overcome them?
Yeah, I think, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think I can speak for quite a few people that I'm pretty close to. Is one of the challenges, a lot of guys that come up here don't enjoy failure, but, at some time, you're going to be pushed to a point where you're going to have to, you're maybe not failing, but you're not the best, right? So you're going to have to basically push yourself and drive yourself and find that internal motivation. And that's, what I thought I brought up earlier about what your motives are. So I think when I came up to the 724, my motives were one based on my faith. I've been praying about it for a while about what to do because I've been thinking about some different options, but also my family, my wife and kids, and then the same thing going back is like I don't want to fail the guys to the left and right of me. So I think the biggest challenge is really when you start getting to that point where you're driving and you're pushing yourself to the limit, is making sure that you have a good check and that kind of set thing that keeps you going.
What stands out? Like what our brains take snapshots of events as we're going through them. What's one of those snapshots that if somebody says ANS and you just get a glimpse of yours, what stands out?
Oh man, I've got a couple of good ones, but I think one of the biggest things is, I've got a lot of friends from doing the job as a pararescueman, but I think that during selection and OTC, like it was just like that instant bond. Like I loved being around the guys, and there was a lot of hard times in selection. I do remember. Out in Pisgah, it just rained on us forever, and so we were just soaking wet. And then we came back, and they were like, "Hey, I think they probably felt bad. They're like, man, these guys have been wet for a while." So they're like, "We're going to let you guys go ahead and put on, dry boots." So we put dry boots on, and I kid you not, 10 minutes after we walked back outside with dry boots, the skies opened up, and it just rained on us again. But it's moments like that where I can look around and the other guys, and as soon as we see each other, and just start smiling, and it's like, all right, we got this.
Let's switch over to OTC. So OTC, again, for the audience, it's about 8 months right now. It's what all operators come through. Again, we train them up really to our methods and models. But honestly, we always say on here, it's really just getting them really good at the basics that they're already doing anyway. So not putting words in your mouth, Nick, but describe OTC, your experience, and how you were different at the end of that 8 months.
Yeah, that 8 months was the best training that I've ever had. Like, and it was great because you go into it, and I mean, you don't have to set anything up. You just show up and perform. And I think at the end of that at the end of that 8 months, came out of there, a much more capable, competent, and stronger operator. Yeah, and we pretty much, went down the whole line of everything that, we need to do in our job between, jumping, CQB, smut, everything. It was great, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
For all those PJs that are out there thinking about making this a career goal, how are you different, or what was different? Is probably the wrong word here. How are you a better PJ at the end of that 8 months, if you could explain it in words?
Yeah. On the pararescue side of it, just the amount of patient contact and work that I was able to do medically was unlike anything I'd ever done before. And I would say the same thing about, rope skills and extrication, like just the ability to go out and really test yourself, and basically take all those baseline skills that you have and just kind of bring them to a new level through, just a volume of experience.
Maybe on the same type of question, how about just being a general tactician on the ground, in ground maneuver warfare? How did that build? What did OTC do for that, I should say?
Yeah, we had a great couple of instructors that took that block of training. And I think that was something, back when I went through the pararescue school, we taught tactics and all that, but, there's just not a whole lot of time to really dig into it. So during OTC, we were able to dig into that a lot more, and definitely came out of there feeling like a much more competent tactician and ready to go out and jump in with whoever I was going to work with, and just start doing good business.
Awesome. So post OTC graduation, what's been your career path? Where did you go? What were you focused on when you came off OTC?
So immediately when I came off, I went to Blue Team, and I was attaching with other services. I did that for probably 4.5 years or so, and then I swapped over to do Commando work and focused in a lot more on core soft skills and driving forward some initiatives that we're working on there. Was a team leader over on the Commando side, and then pushed into a section chief role, dealing with guys that were working with sister services, and then pushed into a troop chief role, and had the experience to do troop chief of basically a group of guys, a couple of teams that were working with sister services, and then a couple of teams that were doing Commando stuff. So that part was a lot of fun. Got to basically run out and actually, tactically lead on the Commando side, as well as lead and mentor on the other side. And now I'm in charge of 4 different teams that are just doing sister service work.
Yeah, let's go back to your time doing that work when you were getting attached to either Army or Navy forces. Looking back on it, what are those snapshots that you still have in your memory about those? What are some of the positives, maybe some of the lessons learned that you took away from there?
Yeah, definitely. The positives is, once again, just kind of being pushed outside of that comfort zone. I think some of the greatest growth that I've had in my life, and that I think I see a lot of other people, is when we're pushed outside of that comfort zone and we're almost put in a situation to perform and to make a decision on, 1, how we're going to present ourselves, and 2, how hard am I going to work to be the best guy in the room? Like, 1 as a PJ, but 2 as a guy that's trying to go out there and be a teammate on someone else's team, and just make sure that I'm there providing, whatever is needed before anyone really asks. Just being a guy that is proactive and going out and doing things.
Did you get to support the same teams at maybe the Navy a couple of times in a row? Did you get moved around? How was it assimilation like when you went up there? Did it get easier?
Yeah, I did get to support the same teams a couple of rotations in a row, and that was really nice to be able to have the continuity and the friendships that I had, built through the first time, just that part was great. Already knowing the guys that were there and being able to just continue to roll right into what we were doing.
Makes me wonder, though, because you're such a likable guy anyway, what was your game plan going in the first rotation up, first time you walked in the team room? What was Nick's plan?
Yeah, my plan going into it was, I think one of the unique things that we bring is our skill set. We're there because we provide something that no one else does. So a lot of times, like if I walk into a situation where I don't know people, I'm one of those people that likes to kind of soak things in for a little bit, be aware of my surroundings before I start injecting myself. And in those times, like the only thing that you really can do that speaks without saying words is just, being really good at your job and trying to do all those things. Just be proactive and do your job and just kind of take it in because it's a new environment. There's so much to learn from working with guys that do things other than us. Like I think that's the thing for me is like there's so much to be learned and so much opportunity there that if you were to walk into a situation like that, just kind of thinking that you're the big dog on campus, like you're going to miss out on so much wisdom and so much that you could have taken away from that had you approached it differently.
Well said, man. My game plans going in at both the Army and the Navy were the first thing is show up in the gym every day because they're in the gym every day. And if they see you in there, it's automatically you start building this silent bond of, hey, I see that guy putting some effort in every day. They'll never tell you that, but you know that it's happening. And then, like you said, be the best at what you do, because if you're not the best at what you do, why do they need you there anyway? So yep. Let's talk about the Commando side real quick, because you lived that lifestyle for a while, and we haven't spread that out in the community for a while, and I know we're adjusting and evolving up here too. So, hey, explain that experience a little bit for the audience, and how is that transforming, at least in your eyes and perceptions right now?
Yeah, I thought it was a great opportunity. I really enjoyed my time there, and the unique part about it is being able to work with your own guys. Like, we spent a lot of time working on other teams, and that's great, and I love that. But there's something to be said about being able to go and spend some time working with just your own guys, where you're working with them day in, day out. You know them, and the opportunity to focus in on some different problem sets. I love being pushed, and there's definitely some hard problems that need to be solved, and kind of having a blank slate to jump in there and be like, hey, you know what? Like, what are we going to do with this? Like, let's think through this. You're given the opportunity to really just kind of take the restraints off and think through a problem and be a problem solver. And I think that's one thing that, guys up here are really good at is problem solving. And that's one thing that I noticed about PJs is like problem solving is one of the things that kind of sets them apart. Like they're really good at looking at a problem like in a different way than a lot of other people would look at it.
I just said that recently on a podcast. I think it was the One's Ready, but man, if I have something unique, novel that I need solved, the first person I'm grabbing is a PJ. And I don't know if it's the dynamic nature of medicine. It surely partly is to blame on your ropes and having to develop systems in a unique situation almost every time that you have to do it. But I agree, man. PJs are some of the best problem solvers I've ever been around. And we don't talk about that a lot. But I think at the end of OTC, you guys have enough reps at your job at what you're supposed to be doing for the ground force commander that it opens up your bandwidth. And if he needs help solving something novel or unique, man, if I'm him, I'm grabbing one of you guys, at least going over there and having a talk to you and say, how would you solve this? Or this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? What's the evolution going on up there as much as you can tell us right now? Are commandos still around? Or we still have that same focus? Is it evolving? What can you relate to the audience just so they have a kind of an understanding of where we're going?
Yeah, the commandos are still around, and I think what they are doing right now is still evolving. I think there's some really good opportunities there. And like I said, they are at a point right now where they're able to kind of dig in and focus on what they're looking at, which is kind of cool. They've got basically some time to just really focus in and get good at those tactics, reconnaissance, like whatever else they're digging into, and just really hit it hard. But yeah, they're definitely still around, and they're still working through it.
Here's what I love about our organization, and I would think you would agree, but I'd like to get your comments on it. When we stood the Commandos up years ago, and we have visionaries up there, man, and luckily sometimes we follow their vision and try to turn that into reality. But I think everybody outside the fence line, and even some inside the fence line, were like, what are y'all doing? Like, what are we doing? Like, that doesn't fit in the model of this counter VEO fight that we're doing right now. So what are you doing? But now that we see how war has evolved and now what we're focused on, what they established is exactly where we needed to be in this moment. And now you see the other ST units trying to quickly evolve and adapt that same model that we applied through some great visionaries, and I wasn't one of them, that stood this concept up. So any thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, just persistence and hard work and driving through, a lot of those people being like, hey, like, what are you guys doing? Like, and a lot of working through ambiguity. Like, there's some times where, like, you have an end goal, right? But the path to get there is somewhat open to how you want to do it. So I think that's kind of a unique part about being where we are, is just being able to kind of create like a bit of a path on how you want to get to something and what you think you can do to make yourself and your team more successful in that. Like, the options are pretty wide open.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So knowing what you know now, Nick, you can see behind the curtain. And if you were a PJ out there, what should they know? What should they know? What should be driving their desire to come up there? Because you had this knowledge of what you guys are doing on a daily basis. What should be some of those driving motivations for guys to want to come up and work there?
Yeah, I'd say, if you're looking for, a little something more or different, there's never a bad time, like, to come up. In fact, I wish I would have come up sooner. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed my time at the units that I went to, and it's hard to say that I would have wanted to come up sooner, because I also feel like I wouldn't want to trade anything that I got to do. But yeah, I've really enjoyed my time up here, and I would just say, if you're thinking about it, like, just put a package in and give it a shot. There's really nothing to lose. Like, whether you come up and things don't work out the way that you had envisioned them, or everything works out the way that you had planned, like, again, I'll throw that back to perspective. Like, there's so much that you can learn about yourself by just pushing yourself to the limit. I think that's probably one of the best ways to really figure out who you are, is pushing yourself forward to way outside your comfort zone. But yeah, I'd say if you're thinking about trying to look for something that's maybe a little bit different, and now's the time. Like, I wouldn't wait.
Let's talk about support real quick, because one thing that kept me at the organization for as many years as I've been there is our amazing support network. Again, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. Explain the support structure and how that's benefited you as an operator.
Yeah, the support structure is pretty amazing. It's unparalleled. Like, I hadn't really run into this at any of the other units that I've been at, and I think it pretty much goes at all levels. Our support folks are assessed and selected as well. Like, they're people that are motivated and want to be up there to do whatever their job is. And I think one of the most important parts to say about this is, like, all of our jobs are intertwined. Like, they do amazing work so that we can go do the work that we do. It can't happen if those people aren't doing what they're doing. We can't do what we do, and none of this gets done. So it's a pretty amazing crew, and they will do whatever they need to do to make sure that they're getting the job done on the sports side. And it doesn't matter what shop they're in. Like, I've had nothing but good experiences with the support folks.
Yeah, I think it's a huge bonus of being up there. And also,
we're a compressed group, unlike the 720th that's spread out all over the continental United States. All of our support network now, we're all on the same compound. So if one guy's out because he's sick, like another ST might be screwed that day because that guy's out, right? Us, man, there's 2 or 3 guys lined stacked deep, usually in every position. So it's just an incredible place to be. But I want to switch over to something because your wife was on a podcast earlier. So she's been on this podcast long before Nick ever got to come on, and
Yep.
Sarah knocked it out of the park, man. She was awesome. It was such my privilege to be on that conversation with her that day. But let's talk about the spouses and what you've experienced with spouse support, or how the spouse life is up here, because a lot of guys have spouses who are really, sometimes they're the hardest person to sell. And I'm not asking you to sell it. I just want to give them some reality from Nick's perspective of being married up here, and what that experience has been like.
First off, I have to agree with you. Like, my wife is pretty amazing. Definitely somebody that helps make me better. But no, I think as far as the spouses go, like the support network and just the friendship that has grown up here between the spouses, like, man, like it's been a great place for us. I think my wife's been really happy here. Made some great friends, great support network, to include the HP staff. Like, I know she's talked to people throughout the staff, and they've been open to different ideas and things that she was wanting to do as well. And I think it's a great place. I have, like I said earlier, I'm married and I have two kids, and we have thoroughly enjoyed being here. Like, I know there's a lot of talk about, you go there and you're never going to be around, but the reality of it is, like, I don't feel like I'm gone any more than I was at any other unit. I was pretty busy in England. I came here, and yeah, I felt like it was great. And on top of that, like, the support for families and for spouses, like, there's some different programs that are here that I don't think really exist at any other unit that's available for them.
Yeah, well said. And I think, again, that's another joy of us being a compressed group in one place, is all those assets just get to be focused on everybody here. So I'm going to talk real quick before we move towards the end about the HPO evolution up here, though, because you got here and there was really no human performance optimization staff members here. If there was only one, I think, when you got here.
Yeah.
How has that evolution been from strength coaches to PTs to docs to everything that you've witnessed in your last decade here? Can you just explain that for the audience of where we came from and where we're at now?
And yeah, like you said, over my time here, I've seen it grow into what it is now, and it's pretty amazing. Like, we have got great team of strength coaches and physical therapists, physical trainers, like the docs, like everybody working together. Like, the whole HP staff is pretty amazing, right down to nutritionists and everything else. Like, not enough great things to say about them. They've definitely been the ones that have kept me going personally, and I know that that's the same for a lot of guys up there. They'll bend over backwards to make sure that you're fit and healthy, and, like, helping out with all the things that happen just from doing the work that we do to keep you going and keep you running.
Awesome. Nick, as we wind down to this final question, really what I'm just asking here is, what have I not asked you that I should have asked you on here? What are some rounds that you have left in the chamber that you want to get out there?
I think one of the biggest things I would just say is, you asked it earlier, but if it's in the back of your mind to maybe come up and assess and try it out, like, I wouldn't wait. If that's there in the back of your mind, it's there for a reason. And sometimes you just got to trust what's going on. But I would say go ahead and reach out and just push yourself outside of your comfort zone and just see what happens. It'd be a great opportunity one way or another. And other than that, like, honestly, like I've been here for about 10 years now, and this has been a great place, just great people. I think one of the biggest things that I take away is every single day at work, I feel like I am driven forward by another operator that is, whether he's a newer guy or an older guy, like, there's always somebody that is better than you at something. And it's pretty amazing to be able to work in a place that every single day I walk in there, I know that I've got to be on my A game to just show up and perform. And I think that's pretty amazing. And that's one of the things that I think brought me up to where I'm at working here is wanting to be around guys like that. Yeah, it's just that kind of mutual competition and drive between each other. I think that makes you just that much sharper.
I could not agree anymore. Nick, I appreciate you coming on today and taking the time, man. I know just for the audience, me and Nick's about to go over and brief the graduating class at the PJ school here in a few minutes. I hear they have I think the biggest class they've ever had graduate, so this should be fun. So we're going to head over there in about an hour. But Nick, thanks for taking the time on here today, man. I know you got in late, so appreciate taking the time.
Yeah, thank you.